pretty amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4, and I
Yeah.
got some things done very quickly. But it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. Just takes too long.
Yeah, it just takes too long, and it's you end up in the same with the approval, but it's just it takes years instead of something that I think could potentially take
Yeah,
months, that improves people's lives. And I
yeah,
think but I just wanted to sort of hop on this point that like there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations, because otherwise they just keep building up every year, and
yep.
you get like hardening of the arteries, and eventually everything's illegal, or takes forever, and then we just ossify as a society. We can't make any
Yeah.
progress, and that's it's a really big
Well,
deal.
Elon, just
So
getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. And but people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved
yeah,
where you can
yeah,
you basically you look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability, the country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list. If somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative.
yeah,
Okay. And as you know, we got it
yeah,
done. We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying to get this done for 58
yeah,
years. And it sounds simple, but it wasn't because I mean, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it, but we got it done.
sure,
Somebody signs, you sign a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody. And we got it done. And we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to Try. Hopefully you never need it. But if you
yeah,
do, you don't have to travel to Asia. People,
right,
if they had money, they go to
yeah,
Asia, they go
sure,
to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happened. They'd go home and
yeah.
die.
Well, I mean, and actually, to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they get more regulations than we do. So why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did
Um,
something that really, they've been trying to do it for 50 years and they just couldn't get it done. And I got it done. And it's really something. But you're right. Some people go to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe. And it's a drug that, generally speaking, would
yeah,
work. It's pretty crazy. You're
absolutely.
right.
And I think so, so long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons, and like these are the risks, this is the risk, and like you make your own decision.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, I think just,
So
in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get
yeah,
nervous because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how you can see that right away. What is the number? Wow. What is it?
well,
Wow.
I think in
Wow,
terms of
that's a
people that
that's bigger than you said. You said 25 and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70. And I guess over a period of time, hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
well, I think actually in terms of the number of people that will hear this conversation, over the next few days to
Right.
weeks, it's going to be hundreds of
That's what they
millions.
say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an
Yeah.
honor. Yeah, I just asked this, are you better off now or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that and nobody's better off now. Inflation has killed it. And they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the
Yeah.
colleges over, I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden
Well,
migrant
yeah.
crime. Maybe I'll call it
Well,
Kamala
I,
migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always try to get to the ground truth by just asking people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, do you know, have any of your friends, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, three of her friends in three
It's
separate
crazy.
incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets of New York. And I said, well, did what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and they just
They
know that
always get away.
nothing's going. And they don't even bother reporting it because there's not. They know that they're not going to, people are not going to get prosecuted. They just let, violent criminals out in New York
The only
with
one that gets
zero bail.
prosecuted is Donald Trump. They don't get, they prosecute Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it's just obviously messed
Oh,
up
it's terrible.
if violent criminals are being getting off scot
Yep,
free, and meanwhile New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like this, and I think the sort of sensible public looks at this and says, what the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system. Um, the legal system is supposed to be protecting the
that's right.
public from violent criminals, and it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decision about who should be president, as opposed to, some legal case.
Once they start this precedent, because this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a very bad precedent what they're doing in terms of, going after their political opponent. And that's all it is. It's going after their political opponent.
Yeah,
And then you get a judge who's, a strong Democrat, and I'm being nice when I say that, in many cases crooked as hell. But you get a judge and you go into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote, and you'll have a jury pool
yeah,
with people that hate Republicans or hate. It could
sure,
also be the other way though,
of course,
because it could start the other way in areas where they hate
exactly.
Democrats, and you get into a
Yep.
Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is
Yep.
losing. New York
Absolutely.
City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me, because these people say we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system. You have an unfair system of
Yes.
justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So, all of that stuff is important. But the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of
Yeah, I think there's
inflation.
I think there's a lot of
Right.
opportunity. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
And I just
I
want to
think I
I want to
think
congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. We can talk. You and I can talk about
well,
rockets
see,
and,
it's kind of you to say. Thank you.
well, tunnels. We can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars. So many things. And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty, I'll say. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I
Well,
congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And well, I mean, I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And, we have a phrase, make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great again. And we can do it. We can do it now. But if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we've suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad. We have to
I
do a
think
lot
I
of
think that's a
things.
very real
Yeah,
risk.
it's a big
That's a
risk.
very real risk.
Yeah.
And it's, I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before, and if you look at my record, I've actually been. I'm not like, sometimes they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd, because I'm like making electric vehicles and solar and batteries, helping with the environment, and and I actually I supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president, and so it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed-in-the-wool long-term Republican. I'd call myself, uh, historically a moderate Democrat, but now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country, and uh, I think a lot of people thought, the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not, and obviously we're just going to see an even further left uh, administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. I mean, she was brought up as as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. That's, you can Google it. I mean, it's not a. We're not making this up. That's how she was brought up. So, uh, and we just we want to have a future that is prosperous. And I think we're just at this critical juncture, and I think this is a case of the America is kind of at a fork in the road,
It's true.
and I think it will take if the path to, like, you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself. And But I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before, and I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left, and so this is to people out there who are in the moderate camp to say, I think you should support um, Donald Trump for president. I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in deep trouble if they don't, if it goes the other way.
Well, I want to thank you. And, I actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's
Yeah.
even more of an
Well,
honor to have
yeah.
your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But, when you think of her, San Francisco 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America, and now it's almost not livable there. And California likewise. And she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California, and she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope the elections are going to be run honestly, and we're going to turn this country around. We're going to do things that, and we can do it fairly quickly. And we have to get rid of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at
Yeah.
us. They think we're stupid to accept these people. These are radical, stone cold killers in many cases, and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands,
Yeah.
and we have to take
Yeah.
them out.
Yeah, I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we want to restore both the perception and reality of respect in the judicial system, just, stop the lawfare, and I think that's like, and how are those even right wing positions? I think those are that's just common sense, and that's I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. I don't understand, the whole, they call it progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it liberal or progressive. I don't understand how somebody could say that it's okay for them to empty prisons into our country. And again, I told you their
Yeah,
crime rates
definitely
all
not
over the world
okay.
are going way down, which makes sense. In fact, the next time what we'll do is, if something happens with this election, which would be a horror show, we'll meet the next time in Venezuela, because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country. Okay. So we'll go, you and I will go, and we'll have a meeting and dinner in Venezuela, because that's what's happening. Their crime rate's coming down and our crime rate's going through the roof. And it's so simple. And you haven't seen anything yet, because these people have come into our country and they're just getting acclimated, and they don't know about being politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police, we have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their
Yeah.
job without being destroyed.
Well, absolutely, and it's obviously demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes, and then you arrest the violent criminal, and then the DA doesn't prosecute, and that's let the guy out.
Right.
Well, then, like, why should a police officer risk their life uh, to arrest a violent felon
Well, even
if
worse, Elon,
nothing's going to happen?
even worse, they prosecute the police officer. They go after it and they prosecute the police officer, and they take away his pension. They take away his
Yeah.
job. He loses his family. He loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when there was that case where sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times
Yep.
Square in New York, and and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to California. Well, what is I mean, that is a gross indignity against the United States, and that's how, I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? What that how can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never seen anything.
You know?
We see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous profession, but it's something they're very proud of, and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things, but I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like punching, stand up fighting a police officer. There were two of them, and you
Yeah,
had about six
yeah,
of
yeah.
these guys, and they're punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead if they did that. They'd be shot.
Dead.
They
Yes.
would be shot instantly. And they come from these countries, and it's taking them a while to realize that we don't do that in this country. But in their own
Yeah,
country, if they stood on a street and had a fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness, and
yeah. It's
it's
just
such a sad thing to see. And that's the reason you have crime,
we
by the way,
yeah,
because we don't do anything about
yeah.
it.
Yeah, we just cannot have a situation where our police officers are beaten up on camera by a gang of illegal immigrants, and then nothing happens to the guys that beat up the cops. I mean, and they're let out. This is
Well, we're going to
unacceptable.
change it,
Um,
and we're going to get them out of the country. When I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take them back. In the case of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some others, you couldn't get them back. And I said, really? Oh, you can't get them back because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries, so you couldn't land a plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was $750 million. I said, good. Tell them they're in default. They're delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they won't accept
yeah,
their.
it's
And you know what happened? They all called me,
yeah,
every one
yeah,
of them. They said, we would be honored to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was so easy, but it's one of those things. And we got them back. We took in so many. The MS-13 is probably
yeah,
the worst gangs in the world. They're the most vicious, violent. We took them out of here by the thousands and got them out of here, and their countries took them back. And because I said you're not getting any more economic aid, and once I said that, they were nice. They wouldn't take them back for
yeah,
Obama. They
yeah.
wouldn't take them back for anybody. And now we have a problem because we have this guy, and they don't take him back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
Yeah, yeah. It's just gotta be done. We just can't have uh whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have, because they won't prosecute citizens either. Not just illegals. So that if it's you can't have violent, repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get
That's
incarcerated,
right.
because they will obviously, by definition, continue to hurt people. And I think where part of this comes from is that there's and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for
Right.
people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally agree with that. You want to have empathy, but you also have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You have one layer deep empathy. You got to say, like, what if you don't incarcerate this person? Who are they going to uh, hurt? Who are they might kill someone. They might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have empathy for the victims. And there's a lack of empathy for the victims of the criminals, and too much empathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. That's why you want to have deep empathy for society as a whole, not shallow empathy for
That's right.
criminals.
And we have to give our police officers the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job, but we have to let them do their job. And if we don't do that, it's going to all disappear. There's never been a society like this where you're allowed to do anything you want and nothing happens. And I'm talking about violent crime. And it's going to get more violent because these are really, really violent people. And we're going to get them out of our country and we're going to get them back to where, because they were sent here by the presidents and by the various people that run those countries. And I know every one of those guys. And they're smart people and they're streetwise people. And they really think that the USA is stupid. They think we're run by stupid people, and they happen to be right. But when I was there, we had no problem. We got them out. We took out thousands of MS-13 gang members. We brought them back. And now, again, it's the same old story. We don't do it. And they actually gave them a big increase in aid. They raised it up to billions of dollars, and they get nothing for it. So it's. I hope everybody's going to vote for Trump, and we're going to get this country straight. And
Yeah.
I didn't need this.
I
I'm like you. I didn't need this. I had a very nice
yeah.
life. I didn't need to go
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
court systems and go through all the other stuff and run at the
Sure.
same time. I have to run. I have to go through fake trials with, in some cases, corrupt judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life. I have great locations. I have beautiful oceans that I have places. This was, but I felt it was important. And if I had to do it over again, you probably think I'm crazy for doing it, actually. But if I had to do it over again, I would have done it over again because this is so much more important than me or my life. We're going to save this country. This country is going down. And these people are bad people that we're running against, and they're liars. They make statements. They do things that are so bad. They say they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're
Yeah,
going to
it's
stop
horrible. Like
crime,
the
and
facts speak for themselves. The
it's so
facts
incredible.
speak for themselves. Like it's gotten to the point where people just don't even bother reporting crime in a lot of
That's
cities
right.
because they know nothing is going to happen. Um, that's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. So it's just my values. I'm just saying to people out there, like the things I think are important for the future is like we've got to have safe cities, we've got to have secure borders, we've got to have sensible spending, and we've got to have deregulation, and
Right.
so we can have a prosperous future. And then we want to have some exciting, sort of moonshot projects that people can get fired up about. And that's the future I'm looking for. And I'm pro environment, but I'm not against. I'm not like I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry because they're keeping civilization going right now, and but I do think we want to move at a reasonable speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think um, and so I mean that's uh, why I'm supporting you for president.
Well, I
So
appreciate it. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country. We're going to be giving tremendous incentives. We want companies to build here, not to build in other locations. And we want to create jobs. And again, it's about the American dream. You don't hear about the American dream anymore, Elon. You don't hear, you're the American dream in the truest sense, but you don't hear about the American dream anymore. And you're going to hear about it. People, they need that incentive to go out
yeah,
and do it, and they're going to love their lives. I mean, they're going to look forward to getting up in the morning and going to a job that they love, not a job that they can't stand, or not any job at all where they have no money, where they
yeah,
literally have no money, and then they end up with violence and lots of other problems. No, we're
yeah.
gonna do some great things, and I learned a lot in the first. We had a great economy and all of that. We rebuilt the military, we did so much, but I also learned the best people. I learned the good people, the smart people, the dumb people, the people that can do things. The people, you learn. When I first came in, I tell people I was in Washington D.C. only 17 times, according to the fake news media. I was in 17 times. I never stayed over. And you don't know people. You rely on other people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have, used them had I known. Now I
Yeah.
know everybody, and I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice, otherwise we're not going to have a country. And I really appreciate this. Has been, to me, it's been a lot of fun being with you. You're an amazing guy. You've done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people, a great inspiration. And I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up. And I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. I think that election will be the most important election. And I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country because if
Yeah.
we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of destiny of civilization, and and I think we need to take the right path, and I think you're the right path. So I think
Well,
that's what it comes down to.
thank you very much, Elon. It's a great honor, and we'll do it again sometime. And it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear you got a lot, but I hope you
Sure.
got
Yeah.
I know you got a lot of them. So I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.